Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's almost Christmas and that means we're almost done with the Billboard year-end ranking videos series here. I'm getting to the very modern years. This is 2021 that I have in front of me, the top 20 highest charting song on the Billboard charts of that year. And these are quite fresh in my memory, I have to be honest. I remember when all of these came. Like throughout this series, I've remembered when most of the songs have came out, but now it feels very fresh in my memory. This isn't too long ago, and I still think of all of these songs as very new. However, they have 3 years of basically existing by now. Some of them actually have 4 years, as they were released in 2020. But yeah, it's time flies, I suppose, and it's nice actually to look back at some of these songs today. Perhaps not all of them, and some of them I don't think they really charted that highly in Sweden, so it's been a few kind of recent new discoveries for me as well, so which is always kind of cool. But yeah, highest charting songs is right in front of me. I will get right through it and not waste too much time because I will do that throughout the video anyway. So let's start with just clarifying that Blinding Lights by The Weeknd was indeed number 3 on this year-end charts, which is kind of crazy considering it was number 1 on the 2020 year-end charts. That means that it basically covered a 2-year span of charting so highly on the Billboard that it finished number 1 and number 3 for 2 years. It's really that massive of a song. So I had to include the 21st placed song on this year's list. Unfortunately, I gotta say, because this is Ariana Grande with Doja Cat and Megan Thee Stallion. This is 34 plus 35 remix. Now, yeah, what is there to say? Like, this Ariana Grande album dropped in 2021, I suppose, and did take me by surprise, just kind of the polish of it. I did like quite a few tracks, and then there was 34-35, which was included as one of the main singles from this album, because I guess that they thought to themselves, aren't we just so cool by being as explicit as possible about what you do when you fool around in the bed? And it's just like, okay, sure, you make a song about that, and it's really the most pointless thing ever. It's not an enjoyable listen, in my opinion, at all. They wasted a really playful beat on some woeful songwriting in here. The rap verses I find to be dire. I don't think they really add much to the song except like a more explicit sassiness about the topic, and the hook is melodically very predictable. I think this is one of the weakest efforts that I've ever had the displeasure of talking about when it comes to Ariana Grande, who I've actually been quite positive about throughout this series, really, and the songs that have charted highly. This is the pits, really, for her here. This is a chore to just listen to all of this haha in your face funniness. It's terrible, really. I songs like this just irk me. They're irksome. No, terrible. If that's music for you, all the more power to you. But this is something that I'd rather just never listen to again. As I move on to a song that I actually hadn't heard before, believe it or not, but this is Astronaut in the Ocean by Masked Wolf, and maybe I just kind of found myself a new little hip-hop favorite. Is that possible? I gotta say, like, the beat of this track just hits incredibly hard. It's that just dominant and forceful, and especially it's because they kind of play around with it a little bit. They scale it back and keep it completely like in the void, really. Like, there's no instrumental, there's a little bit of a vocal line, and then the beat just hits with such emphasis and impact. I think throughout the song the vocal flow is really cool and fun. The beat also kind of develops along with this vocal flow throughout the song to really keep it very refreshing. It's a playful beat in many aspects. It's both dominant and also quite detailed, which I think is really neat. Memorable chorus as well, like vocally, that clicks as well. I also really like these, like throughout the choruses and throughout the rest of the song, really, like behind the main vocal melody, I suppose, you got these harmonic elements just supporting the track. And again, it's with the playfulness to do with that. It's a very kind of noteworthy listen because it doesn't hold itself back in any regard, and it really wants to establish a very thoroughly planned out and well executed sound delivery, really, in its collective presentation, I suppose. Very fulfilling listen. Unfortunately, this song is annoyingly short, and that is something that's going to be happening in a lot of these modern years, it feels like, because now you have to make your song 2 minutes long because otherwise no one will listen to it, which is so, so, so sad. This song should have been longer, but it really isn't. It's a fantastically enjoyable listen for me while it's on. I've been looping this song quite a bit since I first heard it now, because I didn't really recognize it. I don't think this one's just passed me by. And what a shame, because this one was really fun to listen to. I'm placing this in the A tier. I think it's a great, great, great hip-hop tune that's just really fun to listen to. So a nice one, very much so. As I move on to Chris Brown and Young Thug with Go Crazy, I don't really know whose idea it is to still let Chris Brown be as relevant as he really is. I wasn't familiar with this song, I'll be honest. It felt very nostalgic to me, like this song could have been released 10 years before this. But you also think, okay, maybe not, it couldn't be, because there's these very punchy and dominant 808s throughout the song, which is of course a very modern, I say modern, but it's probably like 10 years old now. But anyway, it's kind of a modern take on music. It's one of the newer trends to really implement in hip hop and rap. So yeah, it does sound quite modern in that regard, but it's just kind of a nostalgic vibe around the song as well. I think just kind of the hook of the song is quite neat, but ultimately the song doesn't really leave much of an impression on me. If you ask me to hum it now, I would not remember it. I'd be having Astronaut in the Ocean in my head instead, I'd say. Everything about this one is just kind of going by the books, really. So I'm a little bit disappointed by it. I don't think it's really that much of a standout. I'm placing this one in the E tier. Didn't leave much of an impression on me, but it's just there. I don't mind it existing, but I would never really seek this one out, if I'm completely honest. Moving on to Luke Combs with Forever After All, and it's been kind of a long time now, I feel, since I've had like a proper country song in these top 20s. I don't count Florida Georgia Line because they're trying to be so modern and cool and really associate themselves with like the hip hop scene in their tracks. This is just plain country. It's nothing else, and quite refreshing to really have one of these songs again. I think there will be more of them in the next few videos as well. But of course, since it's country, I wasn't familiar with this song because songs like these don't really hit it big in Sweden. They're very much the American thing, I would say. But this is all right. Like it's accessible. It's easy listening. It's just a pleasant little country tune that doesn't really do anything wrong. I think it's well constructed. It's a satisfactory listen. Slight like little emotional core in the back as well. That's utilized by these rather convincing vocals, I would say, and some neat guitar work. Flows naturally as well. I wouldn't say that it really left an impression on me, but solid, just enjoyable enough to put on and then move on to something else, I would say. I think it's a solid tune. I'm placing this one in the C tier. I've heard so many more worse country songs. This is kind of a positive addition to this year's list, I think. I'm so glad that it's not another Cruise by Florida Georgia Line and Nelly, or a Meant to Be by Florida Georgia Line again. This was refreshing, kind of nice. Next up, this will be, I wouldn't be able to make it out from the artwork, but I do have my little cheat paper here, and this is the Kid LAROI with Without You. And the Kid LAROI hit it big this year. I don't know much about him, but he has a very characteristic vocal style, so that's kind of cool. This is also quite refreshing with its minimalistic approach. I mean, this song kind of sounds like a demo that someone just polished up in the mixing and actually put a production on it, without really thinking that it should have been more around this song, because it's a very natural and scaled back composition, really. The only thing that the song really consists of is the very present guitar work and the vocal delivery, really. There are some like vocal harmonies and stuff to really fill out the soundscape, but ultimately it's very straight to the point, very simple, and quite effective in that regard as well. I do think this song is quite catchy, to be completely honest. And emotionally, it's somewhat effective just to kind of have this natural and restrained backdrop to the song. Unfortunately, I do have my qualms with this song as well, and I think that it's vocally very whiny. Lyrically as well, it's also quite repetitive. Like, it doesn't really have a lot of substance here. This song does not go deep, and some of the lines are just kind of a bit on the silly side. I can't really take this song as seriously as I think it really wants to be. I understand that it's very, very saddening and distressing for Kid LAROI that he can't make a wife out of a hoe. Oh, but that's, you know, that's just the way it is, Mr. Kid. All about surface level emotion, this one. It doesn't hit deep with me, but it's kind of sing-along friendly. It's somewhat authentic in terms of its instrumentation because it's so minimalistic. And I'm placing it in the D tier because of that, I suppose. I'd rather listen to this than the Chris Brown track because this one actually has something memorable about it. It's a melody that sticks, I would say. Now next up, Glass Animals Heat Waves, and you'll have to excuse me if I go a bit on a tangent here. Like this song, it's kind of weird, honestly, because this is a little bit of a spoiler, but in the 2022 year-end charts, this song is actually #1, and I obviously won't include it in that video, even though it's #1, because I'm including it here. This was, just like Blinding Lights, I suppose, a huge, huge, huge hit. And there is no other band on the planet that I'm more glad that it happened to than Glass Animals, I gotta be honest. I've been listening to these guys for over 10 years, or for 10 years, I suppose, because they really struck a chord with me when I first listened to their album Zaba back in 2013 or 2014 probably. I want to say 2014. Because they just had something very refreshing about them. I think there are wonderful singles on that album. Some of them made it kind of big. Nothing really topped what Heatwaves have been able to achieve, but they've been such a refreshing band for me. I think they've really like just excelled in terms of sound design, in terms of production, just smooth vibes, enjoyable flows in the song, vocally very poignant as well. Then they released another album, How to Be a Human Being, with some energetic tracks. Some misses on that album, I think. Same thing goes for this Dreamland album here, which I think has a lot of misses. But then it has a few standouts, and it also has Heat Waves. And Heat Waves is one of the most smoothly flowing pop tunes that I can think of right now. I'm very surprised that it became as big of a hit as it has become, but I'm not complaining because I think it's a really just enjoyable listen. I zone out, I take in the whole soundscape of the track. I think the vocals are smooth like butter. Excuse the expression, because we're going to be talking about the song Butter later. But it's an incredibly just relaxing vibe of a song. It's enjoyable, sing-along friendly, really. The choruses stick instrumentally. A bit on the simple side, maybe a bit too much so for being a Glass Animal song, in my opinion. But the guitar line is effective. I think they really realized that maybe we have a hit on our hands here. Let's not overcomplicate things and let's just go all in for it. The percussion is distinct in the track. I think the mixing is sublime. A wonderful, wonderful listen, really. I never get tired of this song, even though some of the aspects are a bit on the... It's not like the top tier Glass Animals song, in my opinion. We got the lines like, the look that is perfectly unsad, which always makes me think of Undo My Sad. But it's you know, at a whole package, I just really love this, and there are very few hit songs that I'd rather listen to than Heat Waves. I think I'll just have to put it in the S tier because I think it's that fantastic, really. Again, like the sound design is probably like my main favorite aspect of anything that Glass Animals makes. And if you're interested in like, if you enjoy Heat Waves doesn't really represent their catalog that much, in my opinion. Their first album, Zaba, is a wonderful listen, really, with songs like Hazy and Black Mambo and Gooey. And then you got the energetic cuts like Life Itself and Youth on their second album. So there's a lot to really just delve into with this band that doesn't really sound like Heat Waves as well. But what a hit. I'm so glad that it's actually #1 in the next video. This is probably the last time that I'll talk about Glass Animals in any context like this, so I just had to get all of that out there. Sorry for the long session here, but it's an S tier for me. I think this song is wonderful. And from Heat Waves, I move on to Bad Habits by, and I guess it's a bad habit of mine to ramble so much. Anyway, more rambling, you see. But Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran. A very simple song, this one, really. I mean, I don't think Ed Sheeran is really pulling anything new with this one. It's a simple composition enhanced by a convincing execution. Something that I seem to think is a recurring pattern when it comes to Ed Sheeran. But this one has a little bit of extra things in there. It's kind of like a somewhat catchy hook, I would say, and it follows... It's always followed by a neat little instrumental continuation. Kind of predictable, but at the same time kind of enjoyable. Ed Sheeran is fine in the song. He's just kind of going by the motions. He's on routine at this point with his vocal style. It just works for every single song he releases. There's nothing to really complain about, other than maybe it's a bit expected. But what I think makes this song a little bit more playful and a little bit more fun to listen to is like the punchiness of both the kick drum and the bass walks in those choruses. It's kind of like an unexpected impact from these instruments that actually makes this song stand out just a little bit next to a lot of his other discography. It feels like he wanted to do something that's a bit more forceful, I suppose. It's still a very kind of laid back and simple pop tune, but it has at least a little bit of detail in there. And I think that kind of elevates the song nicely. The song is nothing groundbreaking other than that, really. I mean, it's a pop song. It's very disposable, I guess, but I find it quite enjoyable, so I'm placing it in the B tier. And right now the list is looking very aesthetically pleasing, I have to say, which leads me on to probably, yeah, this is Positions by Ariana Grande, which is also from this album that she released this year. And this is the one. Like this, I've praised Ariana Grande and I've been very, very harsh on Ariana Grande today, but Positions is the one, in my opinion. One of the most like technically proficient performances by Ariana Grande, I think. Vocally, she just shines in this song incredibly well. It's a dynamic performance from start to finish. The vocal arrangement throughout the song is also just very lush and detailed, with like multiple vocal lines constantly appearing throughout the song, which is tons of just very overwhelming to listen to, but in a very positive way, I would say. I'm very impressed by the cohesiveness and the collective impact that this song has. Infectious melody, really, to the song as well, paired with this addictive instrumental. The arrangement is quite laid back, but I think it just has kind of like a great depth in the background. It's the brewing sounds that really build it up, and the percussion is distinct. The chords flow naturally. The melody on top is really what sells it. It's one of the most catchy songs of the year, I think. And absolutely, I sing along to it every single time I hear it. It's my favorite Ariana Grande song by a mile. I find it to be a perfect pop song, and I'm placing it top of S tier, above Heatwaves. Yeah, there is nothing I think that you could do in any way better about Positions, because it's just the perfect pop song in my opinion. Lovely. So happy that this song exists, and so happy that it's number, what would that be, 14, 13 on the year-end charts, of course including the Weeknd Blinding Lights, I guess 14. So yeah, lovely to talk so positively about Ariana Grande after starting it off so negatively. Next up, this is Deja Vu by, I just realized maybe I've mixed up the artworks actually by Olivia Rodrigo here. Let me actually double check that. This is a bit embarrassing if I have. No, I haven't. Okay, good. Olivia Rodrigo will appear 3 times today, so yeah, that's something. Deja Vu is the first time she appears, and this is probably also the least praise she will receive in today's video. I find this song to be like this kind of juvenile whininess to the point where I just roll my eyes a little bit. I do not connect with the whole purpose of this song. I understand that you can be sad over a breakup, but the so on the nose wording of the song and such like just put on melancholia that it has, I just don't connect with it. I find it to be silly. It tries to be really deep and sophisticated, but it's mostly just kind of floating adrift to me. The instrumental feels kind of bombastic, really, and dynamic, while the composition of the track really relies so much on vulnerability. It's a very kind of colliding approaches that just hit really off with me. There are like these drone-like synths and pads that are just really distracting in here, I think. There's, as the song kind of progresses as well, her vocals grow more and more desperate, and when Olivia Rodrigo sounds desperate in this track, it's not an enjoyable sound. Like her voice becomes very unflattering the further into the song you go. And I understand, like, I guess some people find this to be very raw or authentic or emotional because of that. Could be hard-hitting. but I unfortunately just couldn't care less when I hear it. It's still, of course, not as bad as 34 plus 35 in my book, but it's an F tier song. I find this to be almost laughable. I'm so sorry, but this is not that's not it. We'll talk more about Olivia Rodrigo later in a more positive sense, but Deja Vu feels like we just whatever she put out would be a hit because she exploded before this song. So it feels like a follow-up that everyone just decided we need to make this a hit too. Maybe that's not the case, but that's what it sounds like to my ears. Next up is Stay. It's more Kid LAROI, and this is with Justin Bieber. Melodically very memorable song, this one. I can find myself sing along to this for sure. Kid LAROI, I think, has a very fitting vocal style. Again, maybe. His characteristic voice really suits a track like this as well. It's uplifting, high in energy, has a little catchy keys motif in the background that supports all of the sections really throughout the song. And I think Justin Bieber is a great feature for a song like this. I think he fits in quite nicely. Yeah, the high energy, I guess, as well of the song makes this like this is another song with a very short runtime, of course, but the high energy of this song makes it feel like this song actually is a bit more, even though it's so short, because you can fit in more parts, I suppose. However, when I listen to it, every single time I listen to it, I feel like, why isn't this song longer? Because you could really, after that second chorus, throw in a guitar solo or an instrumental continuation of any kind. I feel like that's the song really wants to have that. It's building towards that, and you just want that high energy of the song to continue after the second chorus. But instead, they kill it, and it's a letdown every single time I listen to it. I feel like this is the perfect fit for a guitar solo to just take over and keep the energy going, leading into the final chorus again, and make it at least 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be longer than that, but 3 I think would have been perfect for it. Just kind of extend the track a little bit, make it seem more purposeful, but instead they cut it short, a little bit safe and a little bit underwhelming. I'm placing it in the C tier because of that. I think there are too many setbacks of the song, but it is catchy, it's enjoyable for what it is, and it's high in energy. So C tier for Stay. Next up, here is Butter by BTS, and I've really enjoyed a few BTS tracks over the years, really. Quite a lot of them, to be completely honest. I think they have a lot of songs that really stand out. And then they have a song like Butter, in which I feel like they want to do so much that it becomes too much and not really enjoyable anymore. There's a funky beat to the song, absolutely. I also really like the kind of vocal arrangement because they have so many singers that need to... like BTS is a 7-member group, and everyone has to have their voice heard in every single song. That's kind of the point. So you have to scatter in all of these different vocal styles, and I think that is a bit refreshing. Like, it's a fun to listen to because it feels varied throughout the song. So that's kind of a positive about it, and the beat is funky. But ultimately, I find the song to be quite unexciting and quite silly, to be completely honest. It's maybe a little bit of a shame, but melodically, I don't think this song is allowed to shine as very much because this just drony instrumental is quite distracting. It's a song where they've tried to add just as many playful elements as humanly possible, and random sound effects all over the place. It becomes really distracting and really disoriented, and it feels like the song is just kind of wandering somewhere else and wants to do too much so that you don't really feel the cohesion of it anymore. At least that's my case. I find this to be quite a tiresome listen. I don't particularly enjoy it. There are positive aspects, but I think that nothing about this song makes it stand out, like makes it superior to so many other of BTS songs. This is probably an E tier song, honestly. I could be generous and put it in the D tier, but I simply just don't enjoy listening to it at all. And it's a shame that this is like the first time that I'm actually talking about BTS, because I think they have standouts, but not this one, not for me anyway. Next up is Peaches by Justin Bieber, Daniel Caesar, and Giveon. And like, this is such a strange one. It's the main thing that I think about when I think of this song is like, why is Justin Bieber kind of hiding his actual vocal talent by putting out the most monotonous hook and also drowning his voice in processing? It's one of the least appealing vocal performances that I've heard from Justin Bieber, if not the least appealing. I gotta be honest, I like the guy can sing. Why don't we allow him to just kind of do that? The call response technique in this song is incredibly annoying. I gotta be honest, with this filtered out, kind of whispery response to every time he says that he gets his peaches from Georgia, and then someone has to say, yeah, that's my shit. Like, why? No, it's not an enjoyable hook. I get that it could be, catchy, but I don't find it very enjoyable. I think that as the song progresses, we get a verse from Daniel Caesar and we get a verse from Giveon. Why there are two features on the track, I don't really know, but these are probably the best parts of the song, to be honest. I think they both contribute with fitting verses, gives the song a bit of charming variation, but they both have far superior solo music that I'd just much rather listen to than this like repetitive and plodding kind of flat line of a song, really. Ultimately, I just never really listened to this again. I'm tempted to put it in F, but that would be way too harsh. I'm putting it E because of the features, I suppose. But this is just such a disappointment. There will be more Justin Bieber to talk about later on. Maybe not today, but tomorrow there will be, and that will be more positive. So this is a miss, absolutely, for me anyway. Next up will be Montero, Call Me By Your Name by Lil Nas X. And Lil Nas X just embracing the fact that Old Town Road became a hit and simply just not being a one-trick pony, because he went with something that he really wanted to make. This stands out. It has a characteristic instrumental. It has a very dynamic vocal performance where I think Lil Nas X shows the world really what he's actually capable of putting together when he's not trying to be funny. It's a fresh listen overall. I think the song just ultimately flows so well. A lot of memorable lines in there, vocally very, very strong and dynamic, as I said, and melodically it just clicks as well. The energy of the track is there. It feels refreshing throughout. It has a striking production. It's an A-tier song. I'm placing it above Astronaut in the Ocean there, but it's a great listen. Wonderful that he actually became, a hit maker after Old Town Road and didn't become another Los del Rio or whatever you want to say. So yeah, that's a great one, I think. And I move on to Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. And this is, finally, we can talk about Olivia Rodrigo in a much more positive sense, I feel. Because this is the emotionally poignant track that she definitely put out. This is the one that got her the fame and attention, and for good reason. It's a beautifully arranged song. The instrumental clicks completely. It's gradually expanding. Builds very, just exceptionally well in this increasing and developing motion. I think the vulnerable vocal delivery of the song feels very pure and real in this song. This is when she's not overdoing it and just goes all out for emotion, and I'm connecting with it and I listen to every single word, even though the kind of content matter of it might not be something for that I personally have experienced or whatever. But I just feel the striking emotion in it, and it speaks to me for sure. And what I think really is the main standout part of it is probably the melodic writing of the track, which I find to be sublime, really. The choruses kind of elevate in this melody, so that it builds up to this, well, I'll get a little bit technical, but it builds gradually, each note up to the sharp fourth, which is really just such a contrasting tone in the melody here. And you just feel the heart-wrenching emotion of these notes building gradually over these piano chords in that chorus, and it's just piercing through me, really, that emotional impact of that melody, and then everything kind of at this tension that's being provided by that ascending interval. It's just then kind of released into this warm blanket of chords that seems a bit comforting, but also a bit unsure and unsteady, I suppose. It's with a chord interval that just kind of lulls you back into the verse again. And these piano chords are played each one on the beat in a way that just transitions the song so nicely back to the verse. It's very effectively structured and has a few really complex ideas in there that I really admire. I think this is one of the most beautiful songs I've talked about throughout the series. I'm placing this one in the S tier as well. I'm placing it there. Wonderful, really. This is a standout for sure, in my opinion. I understand some people would probably find it very melodramatic or over the top, or I've heard a lot of people say that it's really boring as well, and I get that. That's the thing, but I just connect with it way too much. I think the songwriting of it is exceptional. So S tier for that. And speaking of exceptional songwriting, Silk Sonic here, the collaboration project between Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak with Leave the Door Open. And I'm just shocked by how a song like this could become such a big hit. A song with a chord progression like this one, or with chord progressions, I should say, plural, like this one has, charting so highly. I don't know how it happened, but it did. Not only are the chord intervals just unpredictable and refreshing throughout the whole song, the colorfulness of these chords as well is something that's very unexpected and kind of unprecedented in the pop scene, really. This is a song about having fun playing music together and then just going all out with it, not holding back. And I think that kind of aspect really shows way too much towards the end of the song, where I feel like they're definitely, I guess, maybe like freestyling a little bit too much. The chords just kind of keep changing. The vocal kind of just completely drops the melody that the song is supposed to have and the purpose of it. It just goes drifting. It goes along. They're going on their little playful jam session, and it shows. It's not the most interesting listen to have when you're listening to it in a studio cut. Like if they did it live, then I would probably click with it. But listening to it as a studio cut, it feels a bit like it's plodding towards the end there. And it's not like the fact that it's not really focusing on any melodic work anymore is quite unfortunate to me when I listen to it. I never really seek out this song to listen to because of all of these aspects, but I have nothing but appreciation of how they managed to make something so complex this successful in the mainstream. I think it's a really fresh and lovely listen to just delve into, but ultimately the replayability of it maybe isn't really there for me. I'm still placing this one in the A tier between those two there. But yeah, I guess I just don't really return to it as often as I do with my 3 S tier songs. And as we look at the list right now, it's looking like a great year, isn't it? We got the top 5 left, or the top 6, I suppose, if we include Blinding Lights in here. But we got 5 songs left here, and the first one is Kiss Me More by Doja Cat and Sha? SZA. I don't know how that's supposed to be pronounced, but this is a neat little listen as well. The beat is incredibly smooth and addictive, I would say. It's irresistible for me not to nod. It's irresistible for me to nod along to the song. I'm losing my words. I've talked too much. I've talked for over 30 minutes. It's an irresistible beat. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm nodding along every time. I think the guitar work is lovely with both. Like whether it's the distinct kind of finger picking motion that it has or this sparkly little detail in the choruses, I think it's lovely. I think it's fresh. I enjoy it immensely. I think that Ja here, or Za, is an incredible feature. Just so well fitting on this song. What a pleasant voice to just put on top of this beat. The parts that kind of underwhelm me and makes this less enjoyable for me is unfortunately the Doja Cat segments. And I think the main thing is that she's so aggressive on this track, while I find the overall mellow beat of it to kind of clash with that approach. It takes me out of the vibe way too much to just kind of have this aggressive rapping in the song. I would have enjoyed much more like an approach that she had in Say So that I talked about yesterday. The approach that she has there is much more fitting for a song like this as well. So I would have really liked something like that to just go along with this song and make it more enjoyable. Still, a groovy and fun listen. I'm placing this one in the B tier, top of B tier, above Bad Habits, but I think it could have been even more enjoyable. But still, B tier is a good category for a song like this to be put in, I would say. Next up, it's more Olivia Rodrigo. This is Good For You. And it's kind of ironic how Misery Business, or really any other track by Paramore from that time, never made it this highly on the charts. But this one's here. I find that to be a bit funny. I do enjoy some upbeat and attitude-packed pop punk rock kind of songs, I suppose. I just don't think this one really has this kind of consistent and convincing energy to it. It feels a bit too chopped up and incohesive in that sense. The guitar detailing during those choruses I think is wonderful, really great input. Assertive vocal delivery as well, a kind of a playful song altogether. But I want this song to do so much more and go so much harder. I think this is a really like soft concept to what I think they really want to achieve with it. The song wants to be, proper energy, proper intensity, go all in. But when I listen to it, I'm always left feeling like, it's kind of holding back, isn't it? It's not going all the way there. It could be more distorted, it could be more gritty, more intense. It feels very accessible for something that tries to kind of be a, I guess maybe it doesn't try to be a groundbreaking concept in the mainstream, but it feels like it really wants to challenge the mainstream by putting something out that's more of the punk rock inspiration or pop punk. And I feel like it's just been made too accessible for it to really break any boundaries in that area. So I'm placing this one in the D tier. Still a lot of great ideas in there. I just don't think the execution is really that good. I'm actually placing it above Without You because I think it does a bit more. But yeah, 3 songs to go. 24K Golden and iann Dior with Mood. I think everyone's heard this song. It's a hook that sticks in here immediately, I would say. It's upbeat, it's sing-along friendly, while the guitar work is also very glossy and characteristic, even though that I think the rest of the beat is quite dull, unfortunately. And the hi-hats of this song are obnoxious. They kind of feel like a woodpecker ticking around in your ear non-stop, and it's really irritating. And I feel like they just kind of scale that back a little bit. You don't need to really just overbear us with that input. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks about that, but it is an obnoxious side of the song to me. I think ultimately maybe the song doesn't really do enough, but iann Dior here has a characteristic vocal that I do enjoy. I think he's quite charming and to provide these tracks with some dynamics, but ultimately I don't feel like the song maybe is dynamic enough. It feels very much like it's kind of stamping along in the same vibe of the track, really. It never really develops, it never rescinds, it's just kind of non-stop, upbeat, entertainment, enjoyable, sing-along friendly, doesn't really want to challenge the listener, it's just accessible and catchy. And again, it's like 2 minutes long, so, you know, you can't really do much with it. It's a short, very, very short, but ultimately quite a sweet listen as well. I'm placing this one in the C tier. I think it works just very nicely next to Stay, to be completely honest. Similar feelings towards both of these songs. But it is warm, it's happy. I can definitely nod along to it, but I never really get invested into it. Next up is Save Your Tears. It's the Weeknd, who of course then also had the number 3 song of the year, but also the number 2 song with Ariana Grande again. So this is like the, what would it be, 3rd song by Ariana Grande on the list. She's matching Olivia Rodrigo with that. Save Your Tears, it's a sweet tune. Enjoyable listen, really. Like, there's this pretty soundscape that feels very complete to the song. Melodically, I don't think the chorus is to be particularly exciting. I'd say they're kind of just a bit on the kind of lifeless, lifeless style. Kind of like the phrasing is just a bunch of pausing and it's quite monotonous in that aspect. But the Weeknd has a nice little vocal style to it, and I think that Ariana Grande absolutely adds something to this. I think her feature makes this quite a nice little duet. Like the duet concept adds something to this song that I think it didn't really have from the beginning, because of course it was released as only a Weeknd song before. But I think this is an improvement on the track. Ultimately, though, I feel like it's one of the Weeknd's less dynamic listening experiences that I've really come across so far in this list anyway. In these lists anyway. I don't know. The song stumps around a little bit too much in its same place, but it's an enjoyable listen altogether. It kind of builds up quite nicely. I feel like it's a bit transportive. It has its own world building going for it. I'm feeling maybe a little generous to it, but I'm placing it in the B tier actually, because I find it to be superior over Stay and Mood and the Luke Combs track. But yeah, it's definitely lower end of the B tier there. And the final song, it would have been perfect if I put this in the D tier, wouldn't it? Because then it's very aesthetic. But Levitating by Dua Lipa and DaBaby, who features on this song, is a little bit better than that. I think this is an improvement over Don't Start Now, because I think it's kind of more energetic and more engaging in that aspect. I think that the ceaseless kind of energy and intensity from the vocal in this song is really fun. Dua Lipa goes for it and doesn't hold back. It feels very expressive in that regard. I think there is also like this heavy emphasis on the synth stabs in the chorus that's really effective. Melodically and harmonically, kind of underwhelming, I gotta be honest. It doesn't really do much for me there. I find the pausing phrasing to be quite flat here. I prefer the version without DaBaby for sure, because I don't think his verse really adds a lot. The main standout parts of the songs would be the verses, I think. I think they're very snappy and enjoyable, has a nice little groove to them, all about minor chords in here, and that's fun. The choruses are the letdown for me personally. I still think it's enough to be placed in the C tier. I'm placing it top of C tier as well. I think it's, I think that's kind of perfect because I prefer listening to Save Your Tears, but Levitating has good aspects about it as well, for sure. Strong C for Levitating, weak B for Save Your Tears, I suppose. And that's the end of the tier list. All 20 songs are now on there, and quite the year, really. Like, there are almost three songs in almost every tier, which is quite cool to look at, I suppose. How annoying is it to see that this, like, if it looked like that, oh, would have been very, very pretty and symmetrical. But that's the end of the tier list. Please let me know what you think of these songs in the comments below. I'd be actually really interested to read, because I think this is quite a standout year in many aspects, actually. Some huge favorites of mine up there at the top of the list, I gotta say. And it'd be interesting to know what you think of these songs as well. Please also join me tomorrow when it's 2022, and then it's Christmas after that. So yeah, happy days. Thank you for watching today. Have a good one, and bye bye.